Hello friends, happy Monday. I am Tracy Alicia and this is the Kingdom Pioneers podcast. Today's episode is going to be the second of a three-part series. I am sharing my story of my pneumothorax. You can go back to the first episode. It'll be linked here for you to find it easy, and it will tell you how things got started, what came about, and that first experience. And my lung did collapse. We went through a week of treatment. I went on to my son's wedding, and where I left you hanging was it had collapsed at the wedding, and I knew it. We were able to go through the wedding, and I'm now on my way home. So we left Gatlinburg. My second son brought me home, and the whole way home I knew something. I just felt terrible. And one of the giveaways that something was wrong, that I was having trouble, was when I went to the doctor previously. My blood pressure was really high. I've never had any issues with my blood pressure, and so I was thinking on the ride home, I have a blood pressure monitor, and I think when I get home, I'm just going to check my blood pressure to kind of gauge it, see where I am, and that should be able to tell me how much danger I'm in. And really, I think I was thinking, if I come away with a pretty fair blood pressure reading, maybe nothing that serious is happening, and I can just send my child on home. So we get home and unload the truck, and I quietly come inside and get out the monitor, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, I just thought it would be a good idea to check my blood pressure. And he said, well, what is it? And I said, it's 185 over 120. And I saw him turn around and slide his phone out of his pocket, and he walked outside, and he immediately came in and said, we're going to the hospital right now. And I knew he had looked it up, and at that point he realized that I was in danger. And so I was like, just give me a minute, let me just kind of get my thoughts together, and threw some things together from what was packed before, and we headed to Vanderbilt. And I just want to let you know that I received very, very good care at Vanderbilt. They had a phenomenal team that was specialized in lungs. They were on the scene. The same team that I saw a couple of weeks prior to this was the same team that was called in as soon as I arrived, and I let them know what my blood pressure was. And I had told them I was in here about a week and a half ago with a collapsed lung, and I said my blood pressure is just really high. And they were trying to calm me, and they said, we're going to get your blood pressure under control. And I don't think they were thinking that my lung had recollapsed. But sure enough, they got me into x-ray, and the results were that right lung had collapsed again. And there was no discussion of, we're going to tube you right now or anything. It was, you're going to surgery. We're calling the team in. And they were just really good to me. My son stayed with me, and they were trying to take care of me and do all the things to prep me. And I'd left the rest of my family back at the wedding, and they were doing things. They were seeing sights there, and I said, you need to call Hannah. Hannah was my daughter, and I was thinking, I need Hannah. So Hannah came in, and Jay wasn't handling things too well. So when Hannah came to see me, I had sent Jay outside, and I said, "Oh, Hannah," I said, "I'm so glad you're here." I said, "It's been a long day for Jay." She said, "A long day for Jay?" And she said, "Well, let me go get him. I know he wants to tell you goodbye." I said, No, just send him home. It's going to be okay." I knew, I just knew what was ahead, and that Hannah was going to take care of everything. And sure enough, she dealt with the doctors. And I recall the team coming in and talking to me about the surgery and what was going to be taking place. And of course, by this time, I've had all kinds of medicine, and I really didn't care about a whole lot, to be honest. And Hannah was listening intently. But I remembered them saying, "We're going to be going into surgery. Do you have any questions, or is there anything that you need?" And things happened so fast. I didn't have an opportunity to really reach out to anyone or to let anyone know. I didn't have my prayer friends, my prayer warrior friends, the friends at church. I just didn't have an opportunity to say, "Hey, this is what's going on." And I had recalled the young lady, the evangelist out of Alabama, the minister out of Alabama. I remember that while she was in the hospital, her family was around her, and we're just praying through things. And so I asked the young man, I said, does anybody on your team have a relationship with Jesus? Do they know Jesus? And he said, yes, several of us do, and I do. And I said, would you pray with me? And he did. He prayed the most precious prayer. I don't know his name. As far as I know, I never saw him again. If I did, I didn't know it. But there was such a peace that came. The Lord is going to send you people at the right time. But I know that there have been times that I have prayed for others, and I didn't know why I was praying for them. And sometimes I've prayed for others and I didn't know their name or where they were, but I knew that they needed intercession. And so I just want to encourage you today that someone is praying for you. It might be a mom, it might be a grandmother, but it might be someone across the side of the world that you've never met, you'll never meet. I believe that I have had people during my lifetime that I've never met, that they never knew my name, but the Lord just put it on their heart. He dropped it in their spirit to intercede for me. And I believe that is why I have been able to overcome so many obstacles in my lifetime, because there have been so many prayers set up for me. So we did go into surgery, and my daughter stayed with me. She was everything to me that week. And so what I want to share with you, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this 3-part series is because I was searching for others who had this and their testimony and just their experience, and if I was experiencing the same thing. So when I came out of surgery, they said that I was not the right gender, I was not the right age, and I was not the right weight to commonly have this. Usually this happens to very young, slender males. And if this type of thing is going to happen, that's out of the ordinary, that's usually the demographic. And tell you what, I did not meet any of those criteria. And they had to go in, and they put something that's like they explained it to me like it's a Fix-A-Flat, and it goes into your lung and it expands into your lung. And they took a tool that, again, this is their analogy to help explain it to me, but like a SOS pad that's very rough, and they scar your lung. They rough it up, and when that lung is placed against its support, that is when it starts to heal. So they have placed it, and then they have inflated my lung, and then they have tubes. I had several tubes, the back, the front, the side, and that was draining fluid and helping that lung to become stable. And so I stayed in the hospital for about a week, and it was about the second or third night we were there. I was wanting to get up. I think I was wanting to go to the bathroom, or I was wanting to do something. And Hannah was like, no, something's off with her. Don't let her up. And the nurses were like, oh, she's okay, you know, and they were going to help me up. And Hannah was like, no, something's off. Like, I know she might sound normal to you, but I'm telling you, something is off. And they started checking my blood pressure, and then they got the manual, and then they were trying different points of my foot, my wrist, my neck, and they were having trouble getting a blood pressure. And so I recall bits and pieces of it. I guess I was coming in and out. I recall that they had asked Hannah to keep talking to me, and there were three members of a team. I'm not sure if they were all nurses, but I recall them discussing among themselves that they didn't have the knowledge to do what needed to be done. I believe they were trying to start a PICC line to get me some fluids and to help me, because my blood pressure and my heartbeat was bottoming out, and it was very traumatic for Hannah. You know, she's watching them not be able to do what they need to do. And even recently, even just a couple of weeks ago, we were sitting around talking about it, and she said, I knew it was dire when they all have needles and PICC lines, and they're working in your hand and they're working in your foot, and blood's going everywhere, and you're just laying there. You got a smile on your face, like it's all great. Everything's, okay. And I remember someone coming into the room, and they said, do you need a PICC? And she came around the side of the bed, and the next thing I knew, the team that was working with me, she was gone, and the team was like, did you call her? Do you know who that is? I didn't know anyone else was on the floor. None of my team had been able to reach out to anyone else. And I believe that an angel came into the room and did what was needed to do in order to save my life. I remember waking up, and the bed was very high off of the ground, and it was pitch black in my room, and no one was in there. And I said, Hannah, what happened? Oh, she was so exhausted. She was so tired. And she said, oh, Mama, just just go back to sleep. Everything is okay. And I said, I knew something major had happened. I said, Hannah Rose, you better get up. You better not lie to me. Tell me what happened. And so she did. She said, Mama, we couldn't. Your blood pressure was bottoming out, and we were having a hard time finding a heartbeat, and we were losing you, but everything is okay. Everything is okay. They got you the medicine, and please just rest. And so while I was on assignment looking for Jesus and trying to co-labor with him, Jesus sent an angel in to save my life. And I'm so thankful for that. And I'm thankful for that testimony, and to be able to say that I've had an experience with an angel. The remainder of the time, I still haven't reached out to anyone. I think I may have texted a friend or two, but for the most part, I remember getting phone calls from people that I had not engaged with in quite some time. And they were friends, they were acquaintances. They had no idea where I was or what type of medical trouble that I was in. And they called, and they were calling to check on me, and they were needing things. And the Lord opened up a door for me to be able to minister to about 2 or 3 different people that called me, and they had no idea where I was. But he just gave me the grace to be able to share the gospel and to pray and to stand in the gap with them. And I did my best to shine the light with nurses and those that came in to take care of me. The very last day, in order to be able to go home. And again, I shared in episode 1, every day they're taking x-rays, because those x-rays are showing the progress of that lung. And if it's not headed in the right direction, you're looking for an extended stay, an extended medical treatment. But my x-rays were doing well. They were going in the direction that they wanted them to go. The suction on the lung was incredibly hard, and it would help that lung to secure itself and stay where it was supposed to stay. So in order to go home, you have to get these tubes out, right? And it's not just IV, it's these tubes that are having drainage. It's not very pretty, but there were several, and I had a fear of, I had done great all this time, but those tubes coming out, I had a fear. And so the young lady came in, and I had not had my pain medicine yet. And so I was just like, can you give me another 15-20 minutes? They haven't made rounds. I haven't had my pain medicine. And she had really quipped with me and let me know that she didn't have a lot of time. But she did agree to go and to come back. And during that time that she was absent, I found out that she was the best member of the team. That if you wanted care, if you wanted those tubes taken out, if you wanted somebody at your bedside, she was the one that you wanted. And I was assured that I was in great hands. And so when she came back in, I just asked for forgiveness. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was so nervous. I understand that you are the best and that I am in the best of hands. And you just do whatever you need to do. And she grabbed my hand and she said, I'm so sorry if I was short with you. She said, I have a disabled son, and I had to leave him at home with his dad. And his dad is very capable of taking care of him, but he is not well. There was several major things that were going on, and she had a lung transplant scheduled that day, and she said, I had to come into work because these people have waited so long to have their lung transplant, and I am a part of that team, and I had to take care of my patients. And she said, but my mind is back home with my child, and he had a raging fever and there was some inflammation. And I said, oh my goodness, let me please pray for you. And so we just held hands, and I prayed for her and her husband, and I prayed for her son. And what a wonderful opportunity, laying on a hospital bed about to receive medical treatment from one of the best members of the team. And I got to pray for them and stand in the gap for her and her son. And toward the end of the day, before I went home, I got word that his fever broke and that he was doing much better. And so I was so glad for that praise report and to be there in that moment to pray with her. And so I was able to come home. Now, my doctor told me that, you can do anything that you feel like doing. Well, let me tell you, I didn't feel like doing anything. It felt, with all of the anesthesia and all of the gas that builds up and all of the air that builds up and then all of the trauma, when they go in there to repair that lung, they're not just being dainty. There's bones and muscle and nerves that they're cutting through, and they're moving and they're manhandling your body. And your body, when you have had major surgery, your body has really gone through a hard time. And I didn't think about that. I mean, I've been in the hospital to have 6 babies, and I came out and I was fine and pretty well got to normal duties. And so that was the only hospital stay experience that I had to relate to. It was not occurring to me what all they had to do to my body in order to set me on a course of healing. And so I was not feeling very well. I had a wonderful company that I worked for, and they were very gracious, and I stayed home. And then when I went back to work, I worked half days. And when I went for my checkup, I think it's about 4 to 6 weeks later, he was very pleased. He said, I did a good job. Like, you can do whatever you want to do. Like, I did a good job. And he's like, if you're having pain, you're going to be uncomfortable for about a year. He said all of those nerve endings are trying to find each other. And, we really had to work through a lot of muscle, a lot of bones, a lot of tissue in order to get that lung back to where it needed to be. And so he was like, you're just going to have a year of recuperation ahead of you. And there was a medicine that they prescribed to me, and it was gabapentin. I had never heard of this medicine before, but it's a very popular medicine, and it is for the nerve endings. And so that shares what it was like to go through that surgery, to be in the hospital, the things that they are looking for, and what needs to happen before you leave. And so I just want to encourage you during that time, if you are walking through something similar, the Lord is with you. He is not going to leave you. He is not going to forsake you. It does not matter who knows if you're in the hospital, if you're not. He will have his angels watching over you. He will have his prayer warriors interceding for you. You just keep your eyes on Jesus. And just like Job, you keep praising the Lord. I'm so thankful that you have stopped by to hear my story, my medical story, but it's also a praise report and a testimony of the goodness of God. I will come back next week and we will wrap it up, and I will share how things progressed after that and how I feel now. I hope you have a beautiful week ahead of you. Thank you so much for coming and stopping by. I love you, and I can't wait to talk to you soon.